note to hear someone local to me, Fisher, is using the kit as well. So thank you, and we'll look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, well, so obviously, Steve, we've met, and RJ, we've met, which is a plus side. I suppose from our perspective as a distributor, how this has kind of come about is the market's changing. There's a lot of things going on, and customers are now at the point where they're having to explore other brands in the market. So the result of that is understanding what brands are out there. Us as a distributor, we're not biased. So we'll always put forward whatever's available. But at the end of the day, there's got to be a pretty good argument why you're putting that brand forward to an end user, because it's your reputation on the line. And for us as a distributor, Panasonic, being a long-standing brand in the industry, is a reliable one. And that's where this has come about. So obviously, Nick and John, who will be assisting across all the members, the focus going forward is to go out and see the members and promote it further. But today was kind of just to make people aware that there is a deal in place. This is the brand, this is what it stands for, and potentially look at opportunities to work together on. So on that note, I'll hand over to Nick.
Thank you very much, Gemma. So just with regards to contents, do a very brief introduction just to show you the history of iPro and how it came from Panasonic. Go through the headline benefits that we've agreed and put in place for the group through Norbane. Then I'll hand over to John, who will go through a sort of high-level view of our product solutions, open platform, and the VMS integrations, which gives a really good direction to the way that the iPro is going. And then he'll hand back to me, and we'll talk about the support and the practical stuff in the background, and then also some of the key verticals and end users, which I've actually moved up further up in the deck, but that's what we'll be talking about, and then we'll hand it over for any questions and Q&A. But if you got any questions or want to say anything through the presentation, I'd much rather it be an open discussion and two-way dialogue wherever possible. So just to explain iPro, iPro was carved out from Panasonic Security Systems. So we call ourselves a startup with 60 years of history. So we've got a bit of a head start. Our iPro was born, if you like, in 2019, and largely driven by the changes in the industry and the market. And that's a very brief potted history. So we're still very much a global company with operations in all the major regions in the world, and the product development now has got a much heavier focus on the development of the cameras and the AI applications within those cameras. So from a global footprint, headquartered in Japan, and then the operations and the businesses are in North America, Asia Pacific, Australia, Europe, and the Middle East. So we've got two factories. We've got one in China, one in Japan, and both can be utilised. But I'll explain the reasons why you'd need one or the other if that was requested. So from a European point of view, headquartered in Amsterdam, so that's where our head office is. That's where our demo centre and showroom is. We're always being asked if we wanted customers to come and visit the office in Amsterdam and spend a day or two there. So that's an open invitation that we're happy to extend. And then offices right across Europe, including the UK and Ireland. And then our main warehouse is in Holland as well. So that guarantees fairly short delivery times, up to 5 days into the UK and we usually keep around 5,000 pieces of stock in Holland. So regarding the commercials and some of the benefits and guarantees that we've put in place, in partnership with Gemma and Norbane and Steve, through Norbane, you'll get the best pricing that we can offer in the market. There's a 5-year warranty on all hardware, as standard to Plexus members. Agree preferential pricing. You know, that we will work on, myself, John, and Matt. We will work on every quote that comes to us to make sure that you're getting the lowest in country pricing on any project. If you need a special project price, you know, we're happy to do that. We just need a few details so we can get the price where it needs to be and then get it approved internally. There's a much stronger focus now with iPro, probably compared to Panasonic, of end user lead generation, and that's starting to happen and flow through on a European and global basis now. So hopefully you can benefit from that, and we'll certainly do what we can to facilitate that to Plexus members. We do project registration, so if you bring us a project, we'll register it. It's protected against you as the installer. So if you get any other requests, we ensure that you get the best pricing and you know, make sure that no other installer is able to win it or undercut. You're able to use our logo and product images and all the content on our YouTube channels, on your website. If you need demo kit, permanent demo kit, we do a 25% discount off the normal price on that. There's obviously a Panasonic legacy install base, you know, right across the country, right across Europe. Whenever we do channel partner events or exclusive partner events, you'll get invited first to that. We have 3 account managers. That's myself, Matt, and John, and we provide national coverage right across the country. And then from a tech support point of view, it's all UK based, but then they can escalate it to either Europe or Japan, and that's in person, telephone, online, or on demand. So from cybersecurity is a very important thing, becoming more and more important in CCTV. We've got all the right accreditations there, including we're the only FIPS 140-2 level 3 compliant CCTV manufacturer, and that also gives us TPM certification as well, which is becoming more important in I think places like hospitals and public sector and government projects. So to answer your question from before, Steve, all our product is NDAA compliant, designed and engineered in Japan at the highest level of quality assurance. And if I just skip back, that is made possible by the umbrella chipset that is used in the cameras, as well as other key components. Now, I mentioned before that, we have our main factory is in China. You know, that was a Panasonic systems factory that moved over with iPro. We've also recently opened a factory in Japan. So that was driven by the US market, but we do have the ability to use that where possible. Okay. Now, just to be very clear, and this is what I was saying before. So, difference between NDAA bans the purchase from specific manufacturers and companies that are resided in China or another country. PAA, so that's the Trade Agreement Act. That's significantly older than the NDAA. That bans the purchase of products manufactured in specific countries. So the TAA is probably more prevalent in the US. In the UK and Europe, NDAA is, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but NDAA is the main compliance that we're working towards. But as I said before, we've got 2 factories. We've now got 1 in Japan, so we do have the ability to use that where possible. These are just some of the headline names, big names that have used and still, you know, have an install base with for Panasonic and now iPro. So quite strong in logistics, banking, public sector, healthcare, government, yeah, you know, there's and the interesting thing is as well, these are all quite long-standing clients. You know, there's it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Panasonic equipment is very reliable and robust, so it lasts a long time, and it makes it a bit harder to sell upgrades. But you know, when they are ready to upgrade, they usually give us a call and want the same kit, whether it's Panasonic or iPro branded, right? So that's in the UK. These are some of the big end users that we still serve across Europe as well. Okay, and then with that, I will hand over to John if there aren't any questions.
Can I just ask one? Can I just
ask
one question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know the NDAA certification on your product. When I questioned that with the BSIA, they said it was only required ever if you were going to install cameras into an American financed project or an American company. So is that really relevant in the UK? You know, is it, am I wrong? Or?
Well, it's originated from the US. You know, that's it's the North American Defense Authorization Act. That's what it stands for.
Right.
But I think what's happened certainly in the last 2, maybe 3 years, that's flowed into the UK and Europe, and become more of a de facto
standard
in either public sector or, you know, there's obviously a lot of American influence in UK business and UK government. So I completely agree. I think it's been driven from the US, and it's something that, you know, combined with things like cybersecurity, human rights that have been getting in the news, it's kind of driven that requirement.
Right. Okay.
Can I just ask a question? Is that okay?
Of course.
From our point of view, the drive initially to use the iPro products was for a customer that's a data center group, basically, and the thing that made because we went through many different options, a Vigilon, a few other things, and the thing that drove them to your product was the FIPS certification, because they come from that world, so they understand that. So that was good. But just going back to the 5-year warranty, is that standard warranty with anyone who could buy the product, or is it only for certain people?
No. So it's the standard warranty is 3 years, but the 5-year warranty is something that we extend to channel partners. So as the way we've worked this deal, all Plexus members by default become an iPro premium installer. That's what we call our partner program, and one of those benefits is a 5-year warranty.
Right, that's great, and we can use that logo on our footers, etc.
Yeah, okay. On your website, you know, we can provide you with certification or any other documentation you need to submit with tenders or show to end users. And the training, you can do it on demand. You know, you're not required to do, you know, days of classroom training. We've got a learning hub where you guys can dip in and out of it. You know, we can do it remotely, and then we can provide a certificate on the back of that.
Okay, no, that's useful. Thanks for that.
Cool. And I think the key thing as well, touching on one of the points that Nick raised as part of the deal, is any product you buy, you obviously contributes towards your rebate and you get paid on it. So it's not excluded like other brands such as Axis, Milestone, for instance. It's included, you get paid out on it. And obviously benefits like the warranty, that's straight up front. Normally higher members, higher spend get that as a group overall. You've been given that from day one. So that's a massive advantage on the tender side as well, with the price advantage too, because of the improved buying price.
Okay. I mean, to be fair, from previous use of Panasonic products, like Nick says, it just doesn't fail that often. So you can offer that confidence of a 5-year warranty.
Really. and even some of the technology that we put into the product in terms of the life cycle, you know, like how we manufacture the PTZ and stuff, it just works forever.
Yeah.
No, that was one of my. I've got many questions. One of them was the life cycle expectancy of different products, John. So, because it's something we get asked very frequently. It's a difficult question to answer.
Yeah, we're talking upwards of 7 years, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to a site in Ireland University a couple of months ago, and they've got Panasonic analog PTZs still working, still, you know, reliable tools, still calling up presets. But
It's not good for business, that now, is it?
No, you want them to upgrade, don't you?
Well, yeah, that's the double-edged sword element of it. So we've kind of gone through the exercise now, and we've been and shown them new technology, what's available. And now they're putting budget in place to start to migrate that system using the new analytics in key areas to get more out of the system than just record review. So,
but also, I suppose the positive is the way of the world now is all about sustainability and carbon footprint. And the reality is, every time you're replacing a camera, there isn't a recycling process in place for the camera housings. There's no company taking ownership of that. So if you're going to a client who is obviously ethical, they're looking at carbon, net zero, all of that, they're being measured on it. If you can look at the life cycle of a product overall, and you know you're not going to have to change that product for 5 to 7 years, and you can just update it, surely that's a better thing. It's not great for business, but
yeah, double-edged sword. Obviously,
yeah,
you want customers to replace their equipment, but you don't want them to feel begrudged by doing it too soon. It's a very delicate balance, isn't it?
Yeah, get them to change colours.
So onto the product side of things. So we'll talk about some of the AI capabilities, reliability, obviously we just talked about then, and the images.
John,
you're on mute.
There we
you
go.
didn't hear any of that. Yeah.
Jumped onto me then.
I
Right.
thought it was mine.
So, yeah, so talking about camera technology. So we've got 3 main series. We've got the U, the S, and the X. The U is kind of the entry level, kind of the overview camera, the bread and butter type of product. Within that U series, you've got domes, bullets, PTZs. And then as we look to the S series, is kind of the mid-range, but it's probably the most popular series within the lineup, and that gives you the capabilities, all the cameras you would expect in terms of the footprint of the cameras, the resolution. We go up to 4K resolution, but the S series really starts to then pull the analytics through in terms of the active guard integration, which is the metadata searching, all the other analytics that we'll talk about as well. The X is kind of our extraordinary range, which is some high-level applications such as marine grade PTZs, anti-corrosive units, and some of the multi-sensor PTZs in there as well. So from an NVR perspective, we do have an NVR range. We have 4, 8, 16 channel NVR, which have got embedded PoE switches. We also have some of the higher, I'd say probably some of the older style that you would have been familiar with as Panasonic, with the NX300s and 400s, like the higher footprint units, which are due to be refreshed later on this year. Then we have a software platform as well called ASM, which is kind of your record review. It does some interesting things. It's not a full-blown VMS, so you know we do have an integration with Paxton, for example, but in terms of what we can do with Paxton compared to an integration you might get with, I don't know, Genetec or Milestone, is quite limited in terms of those capabilities. But in terms of an overall, if you were looking at iPro as an end-to-end solution, we can potentially offer that. But how we're kind of positioning the product now is more of an open platform product. So, you know, use the camera, what is right for the application, and then potentially look to put that onto a third-party VMS. Every time I press pause to skip through, it puts me back on mute. Right, hang on a second. We've got a technical issue here. Can you just share the slides again, please, Nick? Okay. Okay. So in terms of new products, I'll go into some in a bit more detail rather than kind of the headline stuff. So as we look at the PTZ range, so we've got 3 main ranges within the PTZ. So we've got 2, the 6 and the 4K version, some with and without IR. Start off at quite a small zoom capabilities, 3.1, right up to 40 times optical zoom as well. Because we've got the flexibility of the UDS and the X series, and Steve, on that job you did recently, I think there was some U series PTZs in there, which was like a 10 times zoom.
I think it was an S series 10 times zoom PTZ. Yeah, it had active guard on it, so yeah, but it was quite compact and it did the job. We didn't need more than 10 times zoom, so it sort of fitted the bill perfectly.
So we use a gear mechanism. So again, when we talk about life cycle of the product, obviously gears versus belt, the life cycle is a lot longer. It'll hold presets more accurately and actually performs longer over time than belt driven PTZs, which a lot of our competitors use. Sorry, I'm just struggling to advance the slides here from taking control. There we go. So we have a multi-direction camera as well. So it's a dual sensor camera. So again, we've got a couple of options. We have a 4 meg and a 4K version. This has the AI capability and sits within the S series. So you could potentially be running multiple AI applications on one camera and different AI applications on another. So if you think about bottom of a lift, corridor where things are crossing over, in a retail environment, for example, when you want to be capturing footfall on one camera, you might want some queue management on the other. You might want to do some face detection and use an active guard on the other as well. So this is the multi-direction. Cheers, Nick. You're just gonna drive it for me. So 2 options within the multi-sensor. So we have a 4 and a 3 camera version. Again, if it's internal, it's quite a small footprint. I know Gemma mentioned before about reducing CO emissions. So because it's a smaller footprint, we use less components, less packaging, so it's easier for us to ship. Long life cycle on the product. In terms of your VMS, so it's a single license into any VMS as well, so it gives you good value for money in terms of that. We have a hook structure installation, which effectively, when you're installing the unit, you just mount the hook structure to the template at the top, and then you can actually install the unit and work freely on it without any potential for that unit falling. And then kind of combining the first 2 slides with the PTZ and the multi-sensor, we do a multi-directional PTZ. So this would be 2 licenses in the VMS, but you've got 5 meg fixed sensors, and then you've got the 2 meg PTZ at 21 times zoom. So from an internal perspective, it can be used internally. You can actually, whether you can see the housing there, that can be flush mounted into a ceiling. Now this unit top to bottom, as it is now, is about 25 centimeters. So you actually reduce the overall depth of the unit if you are flush mounted into a ceiling. So it's really unobtrusive from that perspective. Goes externally as well. Also has the capabilities for our AI applications. So it's a really powerful unit. The smallest on the market, again, and great warranty and reliability. So next slide, please, mate.
Just to add on that one, John, that there's going to be a lot of these on in Paris for the Paris Olympics next year. Part of the requirement for that was to have this type of camera for public space and stadium CCTV. So yeah, it's really nice bit of kit. got to say, and very, very flexible.
So in terms of quality, as I've said, gear drives on the PTZ versus belt drives. We do an impact resistance test on the domes as well. So actually, if there's any blows with a hammer to that, it'll actually allow the cover to cave in, but then the lens will actually go back within itself as well to protect it. We perform all the weatherproof testing on the cameras as well, and vibration resistance testing, dust, corrosive material testing as well. So we've got options on the cameras that you can have salt resistance, also a clear sight coating, which will allow rain to fall off the bullet cameras or the dome cameras as well. And we also do strength testing on the packaging as well to make sure that when it goes through its journey from our factory into distribution into you guys, that it can actually withstand the demands of getting thrown around by a courier, basically. So onto the AI applications. So some of the free of charge AI applications, what we have within our lineup. First one being people and vehicle, which is kind of driven by ActiveGuard as well. Loads of different criteria, but you can go through age, gender, hair type, color, length of top, length of bottoms, all that stuff. You do have the option to remove gender from that and just look for people. Obviously, the world being where we're at the moment with that sort of thing, there's potential that people may well be identified as something else, which perfectly fine. Select male, female, or other. Not an issue from that perspective. From a vehicle perspective, you've got the ability to perform searches on a direction of a vehicle and a type of vehicle as well. You've got about 18 different vehicles you can choose from. And then as we look at the VMD element of things, so this is actually tracking the direction of movement with the lorry. Loitering as well if someone's within a certain area for a longer period of time. Cross line detection as well, as you see in the example on the bottom left there. It's a person going in the out roped off area, and then intruder detection as well. So it's really quite a broad spectrum of capability within our own embedded AI applications.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's a good point to make where it's when you combine the people and vehicle detection with the IVMD. Now, look, we know that analytics and AI has been around for a while, but it's a technology or it's an algorithmic iterative improvement that gets better all the time. So, you know, it's not all made equally. That's something I've learned down the years. But at the end of the day, all the operator wants is accuracy and reduce false alarms when it comes to this. So when there is a detection, you know, it's something that they have to respond to, right?
So sound and occupancy detection as well. So if we look at occupancy first, so this could be for crowded areas, it could be for queue management within a retail environment. We've been doing some projects recently with a customer installing our cameras into manufacturing facilities where they want to ensure that staff aren't congregating in a certain area to, I don't know, socialize when they should be working, for example. From a sound perspective, you've got the ability to detect gunshots, raising decibel levels for people yelling or arguing, vehicle horns in certain areas, and glass being broken as well. We also have that on board within the cameras. Excuse me, but we also, it's not on the slide deck, but we also do a unit which is an external audio device. I think it's got a 2.1 meter cable. So if you want to capture audio from the center of the room, for example, and the camera's in the corner, you can then utilize that cable, and that actually takes the power from the camera and just need a separate power source as well. So it's quite a unique thing. So privacy, we have the ability to pixelize or opaque on live unrecorded images when exporting as well. So you can effectively have the live image as it is. When you want to perform some searching and export, you can actually pixelate or opaque certain areas of that scene out as well. So it's one that came up in a meeting with a customer on Monday who were using Milestone, and they were looking to have this particular feature using a third-party piece of software. they don't need to use that third-party piece of software now. They can just use our cameras and get that feature straight from it. So some other AI applications. So what this will do is learn a scene over the period of about 48 to 72 hours. And then if there's any drastic changes within that scene. So obviously Nick mentioned VMD, and this is obviously a whole new level. So if we look at a fire door being left open for a certain period of time, a door being blocked, something that is typically there that was moved, whether that's a piece of equipment within a building or parking space which is normally vacant and then someone parks in it, there's endless possibilities with AI. And I think where we're going with the chipsets, and we use the umbrella, it's the CV22 at the moment. So towards the later part of this year, we'll be going to the CV58, which is obviously a more powerful chipset, enables us to do more things, load more AI applications onto the cameras, and just increase the overall capabilities. And I think it's kind of the tip of the iceberg in terms of where we're at with AI. And as a company, it's something we're putting a lot of R&D into. So it's definitely an exciting time. So this is just kind of talking about the ecosystem, I suppose. So where we kind of sit in the middle from a camera technology perspective, we work with the VMS providers such as Milestone and Genetec and others. If there's a particular VMS that you work with, we're open. Think of us as an open platform camera manufacturer. So if there's a third-party AI application, you may want to utilize our cameras to run that application. If there's a VMS company you work with or an MVR manufacturer who would benefit from our technology, please put us in touch.
And it's just to add to that, John, on the Milestone and the Genetec side, we're now classed as strategic camera partners, technology partners with them. So on a basic level, all the camera, anytime we bring out a new camera firmware, that is automatically added into their compatibility list. So you'll always get forward and backward compatibility. The backward compatibility goes back, there's a limitation on it, but you're in a pretty safe place from a basic functionality, and then obviously with Milestone Genetec, brings in the AI applications, and then the additional software that John is going to come on to now.
Yeah, and I mean our solutions engineers are actually doing some personal development work to understand Milestone and Genetec in more detail, so they can help customers with those deployments. So the project that we worked on with Steve recently, so we had a Teams call where our solutions engineer Jonathan helped Steve, when necessary, configure ActiveGuard through Milestone. So that was something we took the ownership on as the camera manufacturer. So just adds strength to the offering, really. So in terms of some of the kind of third-party integrations, so Vaxter, ALPR, you might have heard of these guys. So they have an ANPR application, again, what sits on our camera to capture that number plate information. So with ActiveGuard, what we'll show you shortly, you can do color of vehicle, direction, type of vehicle. Obviously with Vaxter, it will give you your blacklist, your whitelist, your in, your out. It will capture the number plate. It will give you make and model of vehicle as well, and it will then bring that through in the Vaxter dashboard, or also in a dashboard that you can capture using the VMS, such as Genetec or Milestone. We're the only camera manufacturer that can run all of Vaxter's applications on our cameras. I do a few different ones for number plates and also for capturing text off the side of HGVs or like aircraft. Really interesting stuff. So something we'll share some information on. If you guys want to explore that in a bit more detail, let us know and we can make some introductions for you. So this is ActiveGuard. So this is our edge analytic that sits on the camera. It's a free of charge analytic, so it's included with any of the S or the X series cameras, and it will give you the ability to perform those searches on people-based attributes such as color of top, length of hair, male, female, age and demographics. So this is just performing a quick search now based on, I think it's black top and orange trousers. There we go. So that's then quickly grabbed that person, excuse me, and it's actually dropped them on that map. So if there were multiple cameras running active guard, you'd be able to see the journey of that person within sight. Similar search now performed on vehicles. So we're looking at a red bus going in a certain direction, sorry, red car, and you can now see that car's going in that particular direction. It'll give you all the events and notifications. So if you set those parameters up as searches, as those events start to occur, that will then pull through into the VMS dashboard, whether that is Milestone, Genetec, our own dashboard. You've then got the ability to create watch lists as well. So if someone comes onto site, you can actually add that person as a person of interest, and then it can notify you when that person then returns to site as well. I think this is an example now that it will show you. Yeah, so this is a museum application. Lady comes onto site, crosses over the roped off area, takes a selfie, gets kicked off site. You can actually add that person back to a watch list or persons of interest, and then you can see it on the right hand side. It's giving you the example that you've saved of that person, and then all the stills that were captured when that person then returns to site. So in terms of kind of topology, how it all goes together, from our side of things, you need our camera, you need the plugin, which is a free of charge plugin, and then you need to run that plugin on some sort of hardware. Now, typically that hardware, as far as we're concerned as iPro, would be the same hardware what's hosting the VMS. Now, obviously, VMS partners have internal rules and regulations surrounding technical support, which we can talk about in a bit more detail. But yeah, so from a search perspective, you've got 18 different parameters, but it'll also bring through all the other analytics that we spoke about as well. So it'll bring that through as an event as well, in terms of whether that be breaking glass, yelling, horns beeping. Obviously drive that from a mobile application as well. Top of that, you've got user dashboards. So again, if you're a retailer, for example, and you just want to say, okay, well, I'm River Island and I want to see how many men are coming into my store during lunchtime, for example, you can quickly create that as a rule, and then you can manage that and get that dashboard and information coming through to you. Okay. Any questions? No.
It's free as well. It's free. It's free at the point of sale. There's no recurring charges. It's not subscription based. You know, you can just use one S-series camera to test it out. And we've also just released a firmware that sits, we call it a smart box. So it's one particular type of camera. It's called our AI Mini. You can install the firmware on that camera, and then it actually allows third-party cameras or non-AI cameras to be pulled through into ActiveGuard. So it becomes an even more cost-effective solution. So it's worth. We'll send out more information on that once it's fully launched. But it's a pretty nice solution, I have to say.
Pat's got one there.
There you go.
That's a mobile phone.
So it's So if you've got let for argument's sake a Genetec or a Milestone site with 100 cameras, let's say they're all Axis cameras. You show this to your customer. He's like, yeah, I like that. That's interesting. Test it with one camera, and then you can either upgrade the cameras or use the smart box solution, and then it'll create an ActiveGuard solution without having to upgrade every single camera. It's pretty smart, I've got to say.
Yeah. So architecture wise, as I said, the belt and braces way. Now this would be So if I take an example from a meeting I had on Monday. So customer asked the question, can we install the software server on the same hardware as Milestone? The answer to that is yes, but because of Milestone's technical support policy, they would ask that any third-party software be removed if you have a call logged with technical support. Genetec are a little bit different. Genetec have said by all means install it on the same hardware and we will support it. Policies being what they are, I would say, and it depends how the server's been spec, right? You know, if you've spec the server up and it's at 50% capacity and throughput, you want to put a couple of cameras on ActiveGuard, not a problem. If that server's already quite high, you know, if that CPU usage is already quite high, and you then decide I'm going to put 50 cameras on ActiveGuard, you might want to rethink that strategy and maybe look at a separate piece of hardware. In terms of hardware to run ActiveGuard for 100 cameras, we did a spec for a customer the other day, and the workstation I think they got was like 1,200 quid. But if we're talking, I mean, that project, Steve, that you guys did, how many were running ActiveGuard?
Initially, I think there's three. So
We're
we're picking some pinch points and running the ActiveGuard on those entry and exit points from the site. But there will probably be some more. But the server there is very well spec, so I'm not too concerned really.
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of once you've made that decision, you know, is it going to be separate altogether? It will then bring the events through into Milestone. So you've got all the ActiveGuard servers and install behind the scenes. In terms of driving that from a dashboard perspective, it's all done from the smart client effectively. So the interface from the VMS. That'll then bring through all the events, perform all the search criteria, all the alarms coming through, and allow you to search and perform all the functionality straight from the VMS.
I feel like I've got the wrong T-shirt on here, but when I showed the customer the ActiveGuard, they were pretty blown away, to be honest. It was, you know, they had vehicles coming through their gate, and I said, well, you just literally click on this ActiveGuard plugin, select what you want to search for, and there you go. It's just completely changed their concept of the 25-year-old DM recorder and analog cameras. Just to go to that functionality was pretty good. Even I was pretty impressed by it. I got to be honest.
You know what Sorry, Steve.
No, you're right. It was just impressive. It was pretty easy to set up. Obviously, that call we had with your tech guys, and it works, and the customer can search really easily for what they're after on those pinch points.
Yeah. What I like about it, when it captures the information in ActiveGuard, it gives you the percentage of accuracy based on the search criteria, and your engineer who was on site had whatever his workwear was. They were like grey trousers with black kind of patches, like knee patches or his pocket patches or something. And it literally said trousers black, 54%, grey, 46%.
Yeah, it did. Yes.
It literally said, yeah, his trousers are half grey, half black.
So that's great feedback. Thanks for sharing that, Steve. I think, you know, again, look, you know, there's probably other things on the market that do something similar, but are quite expensive or not as quick. I think what one of the things that ActiveGuard does is that it brings in the best shot image of each still. So it only pulls through the person, the vehicle, or the bike, and then that's everything else in the scene is irrelevant really. But the best way I can describe it is like the game Guess Who. You know, you're just not narrowing down who it is or what it is you're looking for, and you know it'll take, let's say, 5,000 clips or stills, and you can narrow it down into a handful very, very quickly. And as you say, Steve, it's very intuitive for a security operator. You know, there's nothing complicated. There's no voodoo about it either, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree on that.
Okay, thanks, John. So we're just coming to the end, so I'll just wrap this up very quickly, and we are going to share this slide deck. This is just a profile of our UK-based support. So you've obviously met Jonathan, so he's our UK pre-sales engineer or solutions engineer. He usually helps us with specific training, pre-sales support, system configuration, setup, all that type of stuff. We have a first line support, telephone based as well as online based. So that's on our service portal. Log cases usually gets responded to on the same day. If they can't deal with it, it gets escalated very quickly until it's resolved. It's quite efficient. So especially if you need to upload any videos or images, it's all tracked. It's a full audit trail. That department is measured very heavily on how quickly they deal with cases and how efficient they are. That's our learning platform. So that's the point before about the on-demand training. So I'd certainly encourage registration for that. John mentioned it earlier. Sustainability is obviously becoming more and more important in the world we live in. We do our bit with our low failure rate. The reduction in or the streamlining of product design, smaller packaging, less components, all equates to a reduction in CO2 emissions. And from a supply point of view, since I've worked here nearly 2 years, I've never had to tell a customer, sorry, the kit you ordered last week that I told you was going to be with you next week is now going to be 3 months or 6 months. We have full visibility and transparency on deliveries and where they are in each stage from either from our warehouse in Europe or from the factory. And we're usually pretty accurate and not have to have difficult conversations about letting customers down with deliveries. So we're pretty solid in that point of view. These are just some of the installation tools that we've got available. John mentioned before about all the multi-sensors having a hook structure. Again, we've got a video of that on our YouTube channel. Very, very easy. If you're the install engineer, you can hook the camera to the base plate. It's safe. It's not going to drop. It gives you a spare hand to do all the stuff. Supports a USB Wi-Fi adapter, so it almost acts as a test monitor as well, which is very handy. All our packaging, all our camera packaging has an easy kitting flap. So if you do pre-config away from site, and this is both for the integrator and the distributor, you never have to open the box, which saves an enormous amount of time, I should imagine, and you're sending the customer unopened product, which is adds to the quality control from your point of view. We have a very nice system.
Nick,
Yes,
to be fair, Nick, that was one of my favourite parts when I first saw it. I was like, oh, you just have to literally open the little tab on the box and you can pre-configure it. I mean, that's my engineering side coming out, but my biggest pet hate is when you've got boxes and packaging and the wrong MAC addresses all over the place. It's just a nightmare.
I seen an image the other day a customer had put on, and it must have been 60 cameras maybe, and they were all stacked up. They were all stacked up. All the knockouts were open, everything plugged into a switch, and it was just this neat, tidy workspace doing the pre-config. And I looked at that and I thought, that's cool. Imagine what that would have been like.
Oh yeah, I pre-built a 300 camera Chinese system in our workshop, and it looked like 10 bombs had gone off by the time we'd finished. And that was just trying to keep it tidy, just impossible.
I'm surprised more companies don't do it, to be honest. It's quite a underrated benefit, and at the end, if it saves you time, and look, we know that the products never go back in the box as they came out. It's just the way the packaged. So no, thanks for sharing that. It's good to know. Yeah, I mean, we've got a really nice system design tool. We can help with that. All we need is a drawing or a site plan, and we can do. It spits out, overlay all the cameras, all the fields of view, brings in the AI applications, and it will generate a very detailed report that you can provide to your end user on either to help sell in the project or as a commissioning tool as well. Just checking what this it's a video there. Let's see what this is. Yeah, so yeah, and then we've got I've put in some useful links as well. Our latest brochure and product lineup, link to the case studies page, key technologies, service and support, downloads. So everything's available on the website. So we've got a couple of YouTube pages and a LinkedIn page as well. Yeah, look, I'm conscious of time, but just as a run through, we've touched on all of this. You know, the competitive pricing, dedicated price book, the warranty, you know, the compliance, the supply chain, the warranty, low cost of ownership, the technology, and the AI applications as well, and then some of the tools to help you. So I think we've got, you know, a pretty good proposition here, and you know, we're very keen and we're very grateful for Steve and Gemma to allow us into your group. You know, we've had some successes already, and hopefully we can build on that, and we're here to help you now and in the future. So thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for your attention.
No, thank you, Nick. It's good, and it's something nice to hear, positive from Steve as well. Thanks for your feedback, Steve. That's good. It all makes sense what you've said. It's absolutely, it's what you want to hear, isn't it? Really, it is.
Well,
yeah.
I say how it is, Steve, and if it were rubbish, I'd tell him that way too. So, but it was refreshing just to go to site and a product to kind of work without millions of firmware updates and calls to people that tell you to ask if you've plugged it in and just daft things like that. So yeah, it was a pleasure. It took a long time for us to get there with this customer, but you know, going forwards, they're now looking at other sites, and it's a good proposition from us as a business to, you know, offer that non-Chinese option, because it is becoming more prevalent. I mean, I'm sure Gemma would agree with that. You're probably seeing more and more change over to away from the Chinese brands.
Yeah, and I think obviously it's like going back to a point Steve raised about people's misconception about NDAA, who's leading it, why are people bothered? All it comes down to is the client, the end user. It doesn't matter where they've heard it, what their perception is. Once they've made a decision, it's like you decide if you drink Coke or you drink Pepsi. Doesn't matter the reasoning, that's your decision. You've just got to offer them options. And the key thing is offering an option that you know is A, reliable, and B, you know, obviously, you know the background behind it, you know what it stands for, because that's a reflection of you as a business. And that's the key thing for us. We cannot dispute that iPro is one of the best out there. It's just people don't seem to be familiar with it. So for us, it's a niche one to go in with a client. When you're up against every man and his dog, you're able to go in with a brand that people have forgotten about or they're not aware it's available, but you've got the leverage of the commercials behind you. So it gives you an upper hand, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Panasonic, let's be fair, probably took their eye off the ball a few years ago, didn't they? And this is obviously your charge back into the industry in the UK, I guess.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I
Born
think,
again.
Steve, what was interesting for me on that project was the price point. We kind of had that many options available in terms of like the U series and the S series. I don't think we were a million miles away.
Well, to be fair,
cost perspective.
that project, I mean, I nearly and I felt like quitting after speaking to that customer, because literally they had a quote for Hikvision, a Vigilon, Hanwha, Axis, and then obviously your guys' kit. And they've looked at all those prices, looked at all that. We've had many discussions about the ins and outs of everything, and they're a big corporate, multi-billion company, and that's the decision that they went with. So yeah, it took a while to get there. I think it took us nearly a year to get from the initial conception through to install. But yeah, now they've seen that, they're happy with it. We're got some budgets to roll out some more, which I suppose is good news for yourself, John and Nick.
Right. No, great to hear.
Good stuff.
So yeah, I no doubt Gemma will be ringing me asking me for.
She will. She
Yeah,
will.
buying the kit.
Yeah, because I was going to let
Yeah.
you know that obviously Ash isn't looking after your account anymore.
I was going to have a conversation separately with you about that, and I heard that yesterday. So
Yeah, that's why I wanted to come and see Sarah to explain what's going on and where we're
Yeah.
up to, and yeah. So, but